other
Well, I
people.
think it's a phenomenal opportunity for humanity as a whole. And all the work which people who are like yourself and connectors in the world were doing, the work is just becoming easier and easier because all of a sudden everybody is on the internet. They're no longer in Sweden or Denmark or Norway or Pakistan. They're all sitting at home on the internet. The digitalization happening in my country is happening at a phenomenal speed. We're living in a country, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, three countries together is 1.8 billion people. And out of these 8 billion people, 70% cannot read their name and write their name in any language. But now they can use their phone, they can use YouTube, they can start communicating, starting to create content, and getting even jobs. So in this time, we started a platform where people can be hired over the internet now. Instead of just hiring regular jobs, you can hire people now remotely, starting with $100 a month for a full-time employee. So these kind of things will emerge, where now the world is flat and people will be not needing to migrate physically, but they will be migrating their jobs over the internet in different parts of the world. And that gives more opportunities to humanity as a whole, and it creates more opportunities, in my opinion, for dialogue without the fuss, because now we have to create dialogues on the internet publicly. As Linus was saying, I think in the last 3 months I've seen more politicians than ever in my life coming on the internet and talking about things from everywhere, because now they don't have a choice. They have to come online and talk, and now it's saving time. It's showing them that this could have also been done before, and dialogues are happening left and right. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm at a Christmas time right now. I mean, all the work I've been doing for 10 years now, it's like a blossoming time.
Yeah.
And I have to work 18 hours a day now because it's Christmas time. I have to work all the time because this conference is being organized, that conference is being organized. People who were not willing to touch a computer are now sitting and calling me and my team to please teach us how to do this Zoom and this and free online conferences and all that stuff. So I think a lot of stuff is going to come out of this. It's going to be very interesting times, in my opinion.
Thank you very much. You talk about if I would say if I can merge those words, you talked about relatedness, togetherness, challenges. It's also something that can bring us together. If it's polarized from the beginning, there is a potential for bringing it together, and that is the opportunity, more or less, that you're talking about here, Rehan, for humanity. Could interconnection be something, or maybe some kind of united consciousness, or something like that? Is that something that we're in the direction for? What do you think about it?
I think I call Facebook and social media like a collective brain, because now all of a sudden we have the power to interconnect with each other, comment from one part of the world to each other. But there's some little bit of problems. One problem is language. Second problem is awareness. A person who is making $100 a month compared to a person making $10,000 a month, the awareness level is hugely different. Priorities are hugely different. So I hope that we can sustain this and we don't panic because of what will happen due to this, online at least, and let it settle down and and we can give it time to grow. We can give it time to observe, and we can give it opportunity to allow us to evolve into something different. But it's the first time in the known humanity that we are able to finally connect with each other, collaborate with each other in the scale which we are doing right now.
Yeah.
And it's just too much for majority of the people. Too much information, too much happening, too much learning, too many changes, sitting at home, trying new software, doing this and that. It depends on who we talk to, I think. But it's a lot of information, a lot of change happening at a very, very rapid speed, and people will panic for sure.
You actually bring up something here that is quite interesting. I think all of us in the panel has been working in this direction for Best for the World in different ways here for a lot of years, and I do totally agree when you say that this is Christmas time now. Now it's the time to harvest what have been created for a long time. I mean, people I know have been working with this for maybe 30 years, and now it's what was impossible 4 months ago is now totally possible and entirely possible. And the interesting thing here, I would say, which I would like us to elaborate a little bit on together is, I mean, when everything now is brought up, more or less, you can see what is sustainable and not sustainable. You can see what is relevant and not relevant. What is, I mean, even what do we want to have and not want to have? At some point it's all brought into the daylight. It's on the table now. So what do we then if we can focus on what we want? How can that be done? And how can that be done without leaving people behind? So that is what I want us to elaborate on. How can we lead but not be led? Yeah, Linus, you have some ideas here. Yeah, we can start with Linus, Rehan.
The association from what you just said is self-direct, or being your own leader, or lead yourself. However, there is leading and power is somewhat connected, and the empowerment of every global citizen is crucial to self-direction, I think, because even this situation it switches who has the power, but there is people with more power than others, and that will always be a problem, or if you want to achieve somewhat equal
equality in some
equality
sense.
in some sense.
Okay, Michael, I'm looking at you because I believe that you have ideas here. You have seen things when you have been traveling around, connecting dots and hubs, and what is your take on this? How can we do this?
Yeah, like Rehan says, it's a lot of problem, and Linus as well. There's always going to be a power uneven distribution of power, but it can't be a humongous, and people have to feel empowered. That's even if someone else is making a lot of change and have a hell of a lot more than you have the feeling that you also have something, and there is enough for everyone, I think, but how to redistribute everything we have today is going to be a humongous problem, but it's the problem we have to focus on. So say that it's not communism, it's not capitalist, it's something entirely new that we have never done before in humanity, and that's the story we have to sell. It's not the stuff we hate, it's something new. So that's the story we have to tell, that it's not the thing that you have fought 50 years to abandon communism or capitalism, whatever you have fought against. So it's not that, it's something new that we build together. That is the story we think we have to tell, I think.
And what do you say, how to tell such a story? What would that bring up into us? Telling a story would in most cases be history, but now we're telling stories that are not yet even maybe written or created. How to do that?
Bringing in hope.
Bringing in hope, you say, Anna? Bringing in hope.
Absolutely, because from hope you can create. And if you don't have hope, you go into fear, and that's when you have the polarizations. And I also believe when you have hope, you have the capacity to see your own strength and to bring out the leadership within, because I truly do believe that everyone can be their own leader, and to see their strength, even that you are not in an official power position, you still have capacity of bringing out your own leadership for your life.
Being a champion.
Being a champion, yeah.
Absolutely.
And I really love the title here on the topic of it, because it's a little bit contradiction, but at the same time it's not a contradiction. So that's very interesting. And what do you build? I mean, you mentioned self-leadership or self-organization. Is that only on yourself?
No,
Well,
because
what-
that reflects out, because what you
Yeah.
are, you give out, and that inspires others, and you are allowing, by doing that, you allow someone else to be their full potential as well.
Yeah, and could it also be something greater than that? I mean, self-organization. I mean, we're 5 here. We're self-organizing this panel together. I mean, maybe there was a plan. We have already abandoned that. So we had in another panel here earlier today. There was some kind of a saying that I mean, there are so many unknowns. You should skip the plan, more or less. I mean, it's not
Yeah.
that you shouldn't have like a goal or maybe a vision or something you wish for the horizon.
Yeah.
But the conclusion in that panel was more or less, yeah, you can have that, and it won't be exactly like that. So you have to be willing to abandon the plan for the plan.
Absolutely, and that is the creating part.
Yeah. Rehan, you have had many good ideas that you have brought to the world. Last year, you mentioned to me this idea of stealing 500 of your Facebook friends. First, I didn't understand it at all, and then I realized it was a genius draw here to totally change the perception of a person and shifting perception by having 500 of your world citizens that you have collected on Facebook in my own flow, in my Facebook flow. That was very transformative, I would say. What is your take on that today? I mean, you have been working with this idea for a while. Lesson learned from that idea. Please help us out, Rehan.
I mean, the short answer is if I was the Prime Minister of my country, I would order everybody to do it. That's how important it is, I think. Because most people in our country now are on Facebook. They cannot afford to travel. Not that they cannot afford to travel, but they cannot travel due to Corona nowadays. But you can still connect over the internet to people from all around the world, meeting people you have never seen before. I mean, looking at a movie is different, but having somebody on a Facebook as a friend who is white, black, or gray, or whatever color, whatever thinking, whatever belief, totally changes the perspective, especially after some years have passed. So once you hang out with someone, it becomes like a school friend, and you can become free with them. You can really be blunt with them. You can be honest with them, and things totally change for everyone. So I think what I've learned is, as I said, it's Christmas time, harvest time. I'm only doing more and more of it, and more. I hope people will understand what this does and how it can help. But how it can help is by perspective. It's not them or me, it's us. We have to take care of everyone together. There are things which Swedish people are phenomenal at. There are things which Americans are phenomenal at. There are things which Pakistanis are phenomenal at. Indians are phenomenal at. And we have to work together as humanity. And that is what I was trying to figure out. Does it actually work? Does everybody has to travel to 85 countries like myself and put a dent in the bank to do that, or they can just do it over the Facebook? It's not the same, but it's still 60-70% and the similar results for no cost. So I think it's extremely important for creating perspective, for growing your own self, because these people ask questions from you which you can never imagine. They question everything because they're from such an opposite side of the story of the world, and it allows you to grow immensely in every space you can think of. So I think it's extremely important, especially now, to understand that when the world is finally flat, when the equal opportunities are finally there, how would it impact us? I wouldn't want my Swedish friend to be out of job because all of a sudden Indians and Pakistanis are taking over your jobs because they can work online. I want it to be a collaboration. I don't want something like borders, which we had created physically in the physical world 70 years ago, to come on the internet. And unless we have a friend there, who will get hurt, and it's like more become like a family. I mean, Michael
Yeah.
is like a family to me. So you are like a family to me because we bonded. So once you have somebody which gets hurt, might get hurt, your whole action changes.
Yeah, and what you're actually talking about here is ideas that have been around for, I mean, centuries. We saw it 120 years ago when Rotary started, and by knowing people from various countries, you don't want to engage in war or something with them, and now we have found new ways, and this is a very interesting idea in many ways, and I would say impactful. I can just talk from my own perspective, and in changing perception, I would say. I mean, bringing this ship out in the ocean, or what do you call it, the maiden trip. It wouldn't have been possible if we would have been only looking at what was. We have to have some new perspective, new perception, and I'm also thinking here when we talk about this, and I'm looking here on all of you in the panel here to see. Okay, so we have seen now the latest 4 months what can be done, and how can we then do it, the good stuff out of this. I mean, you can of course have the polarization in everything. We can have it in the digitalization also. I talked to a neighbor the other day, and I spoke to him and said, yeah, he had been working from home for 3.5 months, and I said, yeah, what do you think about it? Yeah, it's good, but it's really good, but I really miss the physical parts. So yeah, and I really love to do that again. Yes. But it doesn't have to be in opposition. Maybe you can work from home half of the week and then be. I know the importance of meeting people in physical world. But I mean, in this case, it doesn't have to be either or. It could be both and. And Michael, both and. How can we do that? You have tried out a lot of both and ands the last 10 years, I say.
Yeah, I've been a digital citizen since '93. I first went to Hong Kong and I made a friend via email there before I got there. So I immediately understand the power of this both and but I like to meet my physical friends even now in COVID times, and we are here in a physical panning. Of course, it's more connecting, but at the same time we talk to Rehan at the same time. So we are doing both and here, and this is how we do it. Like, I have some friends that I met physically that I talk to now, but I also have some friends that I never met physically that I have almost the same connection with online. So there's no difference in that meetings. So both and is certainly possible. You just have to be open to it.
And I actually have you can go first, Linus, and I have actually a little question for you. An idea I got the other day from another member of the parliament. So you can start. Okay, I go first. Okay, so the idea came in the dialogue. It was about this was a member of the parliament living in Skåne, in southern parts of Sweden, and there is a special arrangement right now in the Swedish parliament because the corona situation made that you can only be 50 at the time. And then I asked her, couldn't you like rotate the 50, the place of the 50? I mean, you can have 1 week in Stockholm, and then you can have another week in Skåne, and a third week in, and she said, that's a interesting point. And then we elaborate a little bit on it, and we talked about then, and her idea was that couldn't we have like hubs where because there has to be a lot of security there, but I mean, you can have hubs, maybe 3 or 4 hubs in a country like Sweden, and then you can connect the hubs. Couldn't that be something? Would you see such a member of the parliament work? Okay, I go to my work, but this week I'm in Skåne, or this week you're actually living in
Norrbotten, in Älvsbyn.
In Älvsbyn, that's far up north. So maybe we should have a hub up there. Would that be something for you?
I'd say why not? We have to find ways to travel less. So due to climate change and everything, and the members of parliament travel every week a very far distance for someone like me.
You should be our best for the world champions.
Yeah. So and so that's anything. Everything is possible, I'd say. However, it's about changing the constitution, and it will be that's quite what do you say? Slow. Slow moving. So it will probably take some time to get there.
You found some quick solution here, because you're not all of the 349 people that normally meet. You're only 50 now. Shouldn't you be 49? No, just kidding.
We are 55.
Okay,
So
55.
there are 55 members
Just kidding.
in place. Yeah.
So, okay, so we're going to wrap this conversation up with a couple of threads that are a little bit, maybe we can tie them up together. We have been talking about, okay, what is on the horizon. We talked about relatedness and opportunities and challenges that we will probably meet or not. I mean, we all know that clouds, they could look really ugly up until they just vanish. So you never know actually if it's a rainy cloud or if it's a sunny version of it. And then we talked a little bit about interconnection and dialogue. You shared some stories here, Rehan, from your work, and we also talked about what is then needed to find this best for the world champion. Realize that everyone can be that at the same time. So it's not like I'm the only one or you're the only one. And we also talked about hope and self-direction or self-whatever. And we also talked about this collective brain that we have created together, where, I mean, even if you said language is a problem, it's also a possibility. I mean, right now we are sharing a common language here for a while. Of course, that's excluding for those who can't speak English, but it's also including for those who can. So maybe we can do this in many languages. And I want to again connect another panel to this, and that was a panel that you and I were in the other day, Linus, about, I guess you also were in that, Michael, with talking about democratic arena. And that was the trick. It was not in the beginning, a democratic arena, it was democratic arenas, and also to see that those are actually taking place over and over again, every day, in the homes, at the workplace, in the community, and right now together here in a panel. So what I want from all of you now is next step in Best for the World Champion. Next step, what would we do, either as a society or organizations, or you as a person? You can choose your perspective on this. So what is the next step, either as society and, I would say, as organization and person? You can choose either or and. Who wants to start? Do you understand the question?
For the future, what we want to see.
Next step. Next step. What is your next step? And you can choose the perspective from it.
I would like to see either or and but I was tapping into what you said about the cloud, as you don't know how big it is and how long it will stay. But I was thinking about widening and rising your horizon by rising above the cloud. And as Rehan said, with the connecting and stealing each other's Facebook's friends to broaden perspective, and that is a way also to broaden your horizons, because I totally believe that you can never create anything beyond your horizon, your own horizon. So you have to widen your own horizon, and by connecting to one another, you do rise above and widen your horizon. So by being open and to wanting to listen to others, by just doing that and to listen to someone else's perspective, you do widen your own horizon, and that gives room for new creations, rising above the clouds.
Thank you very much, Anna. I really like that metaphor.
Thanks.
Yeah, Linus, you go next.
I would say that I'm sorry if I'm being negative here, but I have to say that every action has a reaction. And the connecting people part and the globalization that Rehan talked very, very vividly about, it has a reaction that we need to be aware of and to actually challenge, I think, about nationalism and when we want people to connect to each other and meet and understand each other better, there are other forces who wants them, or a reaction that who wants them
what
to.
What happens when you react to something?
Yeah.
What happens to when you react to something?
Yeah, you challenge.
So what happens then when you react?
Well, you probably take it further, or What do you mean?
Yeah, because then you will have a reaction,
Yeah, of course.
and then you start bouncing, and then you get smaller and smaller. But if you instead you rise and you widen instead, what happens then? It will diminish.
Yeah, of course. Or yeah, whatever. I'm not sure I understand what you mean, but I think you mean that we need to meet this reaction with more openness and more
More love,
connection.
yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
That's
I think
what I'm
that's
hearing.
what
Yes,
what
that's
you're
what I
saying.
was saying.
And maybe that's
Yeah.
the next step to keep being global.
Shouldn't we
connecting.
announce the fantastic dialogue we're going to have? Is it tomorrow?
Yeah, it's
you, me,
tomorrow.
and a member of the parliament also, but she's
Yeah.
from the. Or normally you call it oppositions if you have social democrats and you have the moderates, but we are going to sail the sea together.
Yeah.
It says the we ocean.
Yeah, really exciting.
Really exciting. So we probably need a lot of love.
Probably.
Michael, want to check out?
Yeah, reframe the question for me.
They reframe the question. Okay, so next step.
Next step, yeah. The next step is what I see, like Rehan talked about connecting people all over the world, and I see people doing this full time, like me and Rehan does. So a lot of more people need to have the official role of connecting people over the world, because it's a full-time job, but no one is actually like paid doing it full time. So we need like an official. Every city has a bureau or an office for connectors that you can go to. Hey, I need a connection here. Can you tell me who I should talk to in this country, in this city, whatever? So that's what I think would be my preferable next step. Global connectors working in every city all over the world, and helping everyone else with their daily problems and challenges.
Thank you very much.
Directed.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they're
An ombudsman.
like
Yeah.
public servants, and their goal is wisdoms. If you look, my analogy is if you watch Game of Thrones, there's a maester in each castle that serves the castle, whoever the master is. So.
Thank you very much, Michael. Rehan, what is the next step from your perception?
I think in the last 20 years, internet allowed us to disrupt a lot of things. Two of the very important things which are still not disrupted as politics and education. And education, I think, is being transformed as we speak, and so is politics. But politics, as Linus says, is a very slow process. And one of the challenges is that most politicians are not technologists, they're not businessmen, most of them, I'm not saying all of them, in majority of the countries. And it's a full-time job to be a politician. And I think that is where we need a lot of disruption, especially in the global politics, because what is happening, because in the last 5 to 10 years, the world economy is changing. Lots of reasons. One is China, one is the internet. Majority are these two. And we cannot totally understand China, but we can start understanding the internet. And I would like to see all the parliaments of the world starting to do their events instead of doing where they're doing it online, so that we as citizens can participate on it. And I would like to see all of the politicians get training in social media and starting to use it as a tool for global change, because that is how we are. What is the fabric of connection on the planet right now? That is how we give opinion, and no politician is no longer a local politician, because their thoughts. Greta Thunberg is a great politician right now from Sweden.
Yeah,
She's
definitely.
changing the world's opinion,
and
and she did it.
Yeah, excuse me. Sorry.
And and the media and social media are the means of change today. Opinion makers are no longer the leaders of politics, but the Fox News and CNN and on other news channels, because mass media is whoever controls that controls our thinking. Whoever controls the curriculum of the schools control our thinking. We are human beings which make decisions based on the facts and data which has been given to us. So I would like to see global, I would like to see someone do something about the political change. I've been talking about it. I've been making many courses. In fact, in the last 3 months, I made 3 or 4 different courses just for politicians to to just grow themselves and understand and not be frightened of technology, but embrace it and enjoy it, because it gives them superpowers.
Thank you very much, all of you, and thank you very much for listening. And my next step will actually be a new panel in a couple of minutes. So, and that's an interesting panel also, because it's about how can we make sustainability sustainable. So, thank you very much for sharing this moment and this time together. And the next step starts now. So, please be the change that you want to see in the world. And thank you very much for following us on YouTube. Please comment and please engage. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.